The invisible war that builds or breaks your destiny. That is what you are fighting every day of your life, whether you recognize it or not. This war is not fought on battlefields with armies. It is not fought with weapons or machines. It is fought inside you. It is fought in your thoughts, in your emotions, in your response to failure, in your ability to stand back up when life knocks you down. The greatest war you will ever fight is the war against defeat, the war against surrender, the war against the temptation to quit when the weight of life presses against your shoulders. That war is invisible, but it is real, and it will either build your destiny or it will break it. The weapon that determines the outcome of this invisible war is called resilience. Resilience is the art of bouncing back. It is the power to rise again after failure. It is the strength to smile in the face of adversity, to keep moving when the ground beneath your feet has crumbled. Resilience is not just a trait. It is a law of survival, a law of success, and a law of greatness. Without it, no man, no woman, no dream can endure. With it, there is no obstacle that can ultimately defeat you. Think for a moment about the lives of every man and woman who ever achieved greatness. Look beyond their triumphs and study their struggles. You will see a common thread. They were all knocked down. They were all rejected. They all tasted failure, sometimes in ways that would make lesser men crumble. Yet they rose again. And that rising, that resilience, was the very thing that separated them from the masses, who stayed down when life struck them. Resilience is the ability to transform defeat into fuel. It is the voice within that says, yes, I have fallen, but I will rise again. Yes, I have failed, but I am not finished. Resilience is not the absence of pain. It is the refusal to let pain have the final word. Now let me make this clear: failure is inevitable. Every person who strives for more than mediocrity will fail. If you attempt to do great things, you will stumble, you will fall, you will meet opposition and disappointment. That is not a curse. It is the price of admission to the arena of achievement. The difference between those who are destroyed by failure and those who are built by it lies in resilience. Failure will either harden you or break you. It will either teach you or crush you, and resilience is the deciding factor. When you are resilient, every setback becomes a lesson. Every obstacle becomes a test. Every loss becomes an opportunity to grow stronger. But when you lack resilience, setbacks become excuses, obstacles become dead ends, and losses become permanent graves for your dreams. You see, the invisible war is not about whether life will hit you. It will. The war is about what you will do after the blow lands. Resilience is the discipline of getting back up. And the more times you do it, the stronger you become. Like a muscle that grows when tested, resilience develops with every challenge. A man who has never been tested may look strong, but his strength is unproven. A man who has been knocked down and risen again carries a power that cannot be faked, a power that inspires others and terrifies obstacles. History is filled with stories of resilience. Abraham Lincoln lost election after election before he became President of the United States. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before perfecting the light bulb. Henry Ford went bankrupt multiple times before creating the automobile empire. These men were not extraordinary because they never failed. They were extraordinary because they refused to stay down. But resilience is not limited to the giants of history. It belongs to you. It belongs to the student who fails an exam but studies harder and passes the next. It belongs to the entrepreneur whose first business collapses but who starts again wiser and stronger. It belongs to the athlete who loses a match but trains harder for the next victory. It belongs to every man and woman who decides that defeat is not final unless they accept it. The invisible war that builds or breaks your destiny is the war between your inner strength and your outer circumstances. Circumstances will always change. Sometimes they will favor you, sometimes they will oppose you. But resilience means your spirit remains unbroken, your will remains unshaken. It means you are not defined by what happens to you. You are defined by how you respond. There is a truth I must share with you. Success is not measured by how high you climb, but by how many times you rise after falling. The man who has never fallen has never truly tried. The man who has never failed has never truly lived. Greatness is forged in the fire of failure, and resilience is the hammer that shapes it. But how, you may ask, do you build resilience? How do you cultivate the strength of spirit that allows you to bounce back again and again? Let me give you the principles. First, you must accept that adversity is part of the journey. Too many people believe that if they are facing resistance, it means they are on the wrong path. Nothing could be further from the truth. Resistance is proof that you are moving forward. Storms do not form around still waters. They form around ships that are advancing. When adversity comes, do not be surprised. Do not complain. Expect it, welcome it, and let it sharpen you. Second, you must develop the right mindset. Resilience begins in thought. When you face a setback, the words you speak to yourself will determine whether you rise or fall. If you say, "This is the end," then it will be. If you say, "This is a lesson," then it becomes a stepping stone. Train your mind to interpret every setback as temporary, every failure as feedback, every difficulty as a chance to grow. Third, you must have a definite purpose. A man with no clear goal is easily defeated because he has nothing worth fighting for. But a man with a burning desire, a definite purpose that consumes him, will endure almost anything to reach it. Purpose fuels resilience. It gives meaning to the struggle. It gives you a reason to rise when everything in you wants to stay down. Fourth, you must surround yourself with the right influences. No man is resilient alone. You need people who believe in you, who remind you of your strength when you forget, who push you forward when you want to give up. This is the principle of the mastermind. Align yourself with men and women of courage, faith, and determination, and their strength will multiply your own. Fifth, you must practice persistence in small things. Resilience is not built only in great crises. It is built in daily habits. Every time you keep going when you feel like stopping, you strengthen your resilience. Every time you finish what you start, no matter how small, you train your spirit to endure. Do not wait for life's great test to build resilience. Build it every day in the little battles of discipline. Sixth, you must learn to reframe failure. Do not call it defeat. Call it data. Do not call it the end. Call it the beginning of a new strategy. Edison said he did not fail 1,000 times. He discovered 1,000 ways that did not work. That is resilience. It is not denial of failure. It is redefining it until it serves you instead of destroys you. Seventh, you must cultivate gratitude. Gratitude transforms how you see adversity. When you can be thankful even in hard times, thankful for the lessons, thankful for the growth, thankful for the chance to fight, you disarm despair. Gratitude is a shield for the mind, protecting you from the poison of bitterness and self-pity. Eighth, you must take responsibility. A man who blames others for his setbacks will never rise again because he has given away his power. But a man who accepts responsibility says, "If I created this result, I can create another." Responsibility restores power. It puts the pen of destiny back in your hand. Ninth, you must keep your vision alive. Resilience requires hope. When the nights are dark and the pain is heavy, you must be able to see beyond the present to the future you are building. Keep a picture of your goal in your mind. Speak it aloud. Write it down. Let it remind you why you cannot quit. 10th, you must act. Resilience is not only an attitude, it is an action. It is standing back up when you are tired. It is making the call after rejection. It is trying again after failure. It is moving forward even when you do not feel like it. Resilience lives in movement. Now, hear me well. Resilience does not mean you will never feel pain, never feel doubt, never feel the weight of defeat. It means you will not be mastered by those feelings. It means you will feel them, acknowledge them, and then rise anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of fear. Resilience is not the absence of failure. It is progress in spite of failure. You must understand that the invisible war you fight is not against circumstances alone. It is against your own inner voice that whispers, "Stay down, give up, it's over." That voice is the enemy of your destiny. But there is another voice, quieter yet stronger, that says, "Rise again. Try again. This is not the end." Resilience is choosing which voice to obey. Life will test you. It will strip you of illusions. It will break your plans. It will mock your efforts. But life cannot defeat a man who refuses to quit. You may lose battles, but if you keep rising, you cannot lose the war. The invisible war that builds or breaks your destiny will not end in one battle. It is fought again and again every day in the small moments as well as the great. But each time you bounce back, each time you rise, you are building a strength that cannot be taken from you. You are becoming the kind of person who cannot be broken, who cannot be stopped, who cannot be defeated. And that, my friend, is the essence of greatness. Not a life without failure, but a spirit that rises from every failure stronger than before. My friends, every man and woman who has ever achieved greatness has faced moments of defeat, discouragement, and despair. Do not be fooled into believing that success is a smooth road paved with comfort and ease. No, the truth is far different. The path to triumph is riddled with obstacles, littered with setbacks, and often shadowed by moments of crushing failure. But in these very moments lies the secret that separates the few who rise to greatness from the many who surrender their dreams. That secret is resilience. Resilience is the bridge between failure and triumph. It is the invisible strength that lifts you when you are broken, the courage that steadies you when the storm rages, the persistence that keeps you moving forward when everything inside you cries out to quit. Failure, you see, is not your enemy. Failure is the hammer that shapes you, the fire that tempers you, the soil in which the seeds of success are planted. But failure alone does not guarantee growth. Many men fall and never rise again. Many women stumble and allow themselves to remain where they fell. What determines whether failure is the end or merely a stepping stone is resilience. The ability to get up one more time, to keep walking one more step, to continue believing when hope seems lost. Without resilience, failure becomes permanent. With resilience, failure becomes temporary. It is resilience that transforms defeat into determination, mistakes into lessons, and loss into preparation for victory. Consider for a moment the great inventors, leaders, and pioneers of history. Did they succeed because they never failed? No, they succeeded because they refused to let failure define them. Thomas Edison, when asked about his thousands of unsuccessful attempts to create the electric light, replied, "I have not failed. I have simply found 10,000 ways that will not work." That is resilience. That is the bridge that carried him from repeated defeat to world-changing triumph. Imagine if he had stopped at his 100th attempt, or his 500th, or even his 1,000th. The world would have remained in darkness longer, and his name would have been forgotten. But because he chose resilience, his name is written in history, and the world was illuminated. Resilience is not simply about enduring difficulty, it is about extracting meaning from it. Every trial, every disappointment, every heartbreak holds within it the potential to strengthen your character, sharpen your vision, and deepen your resolve. But only if you choose to rise instead of remain down. Many people go through hardship and emerge bitter, broken, or hopeless. But those who embrace resilience emerge wiser, stronger, and more determined. The difference lies not in the weight of the burden, but in the spirit of the bearer. The same storm that sinks one ship propels another toward its destination, depending on the skill and will of the captain. Life will not spare you from storms, but resilience will ensure that you are not destroyed by them. Resilience is not built in moments of comfort. It is forged in the fires of adversity. Just as steel must be tempered by heat, the human spirit is strengthened by challenge. Every time you rise after being knocked down, every time you choose to keep moving when quitting seems easier, you add another layer to your resilience. And layer by layer, you build the bridge that will carry you to triumph. Do not despise your struggles. They are the very ingredients of your strength. Do not curse your setbacks. They are the builders of your character. Understand that each difficulty you face is not a wall to stop you, but a tool to shape you. Resilience transforms pain into progress. Some of you may look at your lives and see only a collection of failures. You may think you are too far gone, too broken, too defeated to ever succeed. But I say to you now, as long as you draw breath, you can rise again. Your past failures do not determine your future triumphs. What matters is not how many times you have fallen, but how many times you are willing to stand back up. The ground does not care how long you lie upon it. What matters is that you rise. The bridge of resilience is always available to those who choose to walk upon it. Every sunrise is another invitation to begin again, to rebuild, to press forward. There is a dangerous illusion in our world, the illusion that success comes quickly, easily, and without resistance. Many people quit their pursuits because they expect triumph to arrive without the weight of struggle. They see only the final product, the applause, the wealth, the recognition, and they do not see the countless nights of sacrifice, the tears, the failures, the doubts that preceded it. And so, when they themselves encounter difficulty, they believe they are unworthy of success. But this is not truth. The truth is that every triumph is built upon countless failures, and every failure is bridged by resilience. If you wish to succeed, you must embrace this reality. You must expect resistance, you must welcome struggle, and you must decide beforehand that nothing will make you quit. For it is not talent, not genius, not luck that secures lasting victory, but resilience. Resilience is not a single decision, it is a daily discipline. It is the habit of rising each morning with renewed determination, even when yesterday left you battered. It is the practice of speaking words of faith when fear surrounds you. It is the choice to take one more step, write one more page, make one more call, when the voice in your mind whispers, "Give up." Resilience is built in the small moments, the unseen battles, the quiet choices no one applauds. It is in those silent victories that the bridge is strengthened, so that when great trials come, you are ready to cross. Think of the mountain climber. The summit may seem impossibly far, the path steep and treacherous. Yet step by step he climbs. Sometimes he slips, sometimes he must rest, sometimes he is forced to backtrack. But as long as he continues to climb, he draws nearer to the summit. Resilience is that climbing spirit within you. It does not promise that the path will be easy, but it guarantees that the summit is possible. And when at last you stand at the peak, you will see that it was the struggle that gave the victory its meaning. Without the climb, the view would hold no value. Resilience is also contagious. When you rise after falling, when you refuse to be defeated, you inspire others to do the same. Your resilience becomes a beacon of hope, a light in the darkness for those who are weary. Every person who has ever inspired humanity did so not because they never struggled, but because they struggled and prevailed. Their triumph was not only their own, it became a bridge for others to follow. When you live resiliently, you are not only building your destiny, you are lighting the way for others to build theirs. But let us be clear, resilience does not mean the absence of pain, fear, or doubt. It means pressing on despite them. Courage is not the lack of fear, but the decision to move forward in its presence. Strength is not the absence of weakness, but the will to continue despite it. Resilience does not demand perfection, it demands persistence. Even the strongest among us falter. Even the bravest among us feel fear. But resilience whispers, "Get up, keep going, do not stop now." That whisper is the bridge that carries us from the valley of defeat to the heights of triumph. Some may say, "I have tried before, and I failed." Yes, you did. But did you rise again? Did you persist until the breakthrough came? Failure is never final unless you decide to stop trying. Every attempt, no matter how unsuccessful, brings you closer to your goal if you refuse to quit. Each effort builds resilience, and resilience is the guarantee that eventually you will cross the bridge to triumph. Do not measure your future by your past. Do not allow yesterday's failures to rob you of tomorrow's victories. Resilience declares that your best days are ahead, if only you will keep moving forward. Life will test you. It will strike you when you least expect it. It will strip away your comforts, challenge your beliefs, and break your plans. But understand this: life's tests are not sent to destroy you, but to reveal you. The storms reveal the strength of the foundation. The fire reveals the purity of the gold. The struggle reveals the depth of your resilience. Welcome the tests, for they prove to you what you are made of, and they prepare you for the triumph that lies ahead. Do not ask for an easy life. Ask for the resilience to endure a difficult one, for it is only in enduring that true greatness is born. When you stumble, remind yourself this is not the end, it is a chapter. When you fall, remember, the ground is not your home. When you are rejected, understand it is only redirection. Each trial, each pain, each setback is not a tombstone, but a stepping stone if you choose resilience. For resilience is not only about bouncing back, it is about bouncing forward. It is about taking the energy of the fall and using it to propel you into new strength, new wisdom, new heights. Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of truth, builders of dreams, and creators of destiny, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect on this undeniable truth. Adversity has been your companion since the day you entered this world. From the first breath you struggled to take as an infant to the countless obstacles you have encountered since, adversity has stood beside you, not as your enemy, but as your greatest teacher. It is a truth that many resist, but once embraced, it becomes the most liberating principle of success you will ever know. Adversity does not come to destroy you. It comes to instruct you, to refine you, to shape you into a vessel capable of carrying the weight of greatness. Think about it carefully. Every man or woman who has reached the heights of accomplishment, every leader who has shaped nations, every inventor who has given us progress, every dreamer who has carved their name into history, each one was first tested by adversity. Without resistance, the bow cannot send the arrow soaring. Without the storm, the tree cannot drive its roots deep into the earth. Without the furnace, gold cannot be purified. When I say adversity is life's greatest teacher, I am not speaking of mere poetic sentiment. I am stating a law of nature, a principle as unshakable as gravity itself. Life will place obstacles in your path, not to block you, but to build you. The very thing you call a burden is the same thing designed to strengthen your back. The very challenge you resent is the same challenge that forges your character. Consider this: if life were a smooth and effortless journey, if every wish were granted without struggle, if every door opened without resistance, would you grow? Would you expand your capacity? Would you develop the resilience required to sustain success when it finally arrived? The answer is no. Ease creates weakness. Difficulty creates strength, and strength is the currency of greatness. Every failure you have endured, every disappointment that has crushed your heart, every betrayal, every loss, every defeat, these were not punishments. They were lessons. Lessons written in the language of experience, lessons too valuable to be gained through comfort alone. For comfort may soothe you, but it will never stretch you. Comfort may keep you safe, but it will never make you strong. It is adversity that awakens the sleeping giant within you. Think of the greatest breakthroughs in human history. They were not born in moments of ease. They were born in times of hardship. When Thomas Edison faced failure after failure, it was adversity that taught him persistence. When Abraham Lincoln faced defeat after defeat in elections, it was adversity that taught him resilience. When Helen Keller, blind and deaf, reached out into a silent, dark world, it was adversity that taught her to build an inner vision stronger than any physical sight. These men and women did not curse their hardships. They used them as stepping stones. They listened to the lessons of adversity, and through them, they became great. Adversity strips away illusions. It reveals what you are made of. When all is going well, it is easy to speak of courage, faith, and determination. But when the storm arrives, when the winds of doubt howl, when the path grows dark, then your true character is revealed. Adversity is not impressed by your words. It demands proof through action. And in demanding proof, it forces you to rise to levels you did not know you possessed. Understand this principle deeply. Adversity always carries within it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. This is not a hopeful thought. It is a law. Hidden within every setback is the opportunity for a comeback. Hidden within every difficulty is a discovery waiting to be uncovered. Hidden within every loss is the foundation for a greater victory, but you must be willing to look for it. You must be willing to search for the lesson instead of cursing the challenge. Let me give you an image to hold in your mind. Imagine a blacksmith forging a mighty sword. The steel is placed in the fire, heated until it glows, then hammered, beaten, and shaped. Again and again it is plunged into the fire, then struck with relentless force. To the steel, this process must feel like torment. But without the fire, it would remain brittle. Without the blows of the hammer, it would remain shapeless. Without the trial of the furnace, it could never become the sharp, strong weapon it was destined to be. My friends, you are that steel. Life is the blacksmith. Adversity is the fire and the hammer. And if you endure the process, you will emerge as something far greater than you were before. Some of you listening right now may be facing adversity so heavy it feels unbearable. Perhaps you have lost your job, your business, or your health. Perhaps you are wrestling with betrayal, rejection, or failure that has left you questioning your worth. I say to you, do not run from it. Do not curse it. Lean into it. Ask it, what are you here to teach me? For within the pain you now feel lies the very wisdom you have been seeking. The truth is, adversity is never wasted on the person who chooses to learn. Every challenge you survive becomes part of your arsenal. Every difficulty you overcome becomes a weapon in your hand. Every failure becomes a foundation upon which success is built. Think of how much more powerful you become when you can stand tall and say, I have been tested, and I did not break. That confidence cannot be purchased. It must be earned in the crucible of adversity. Now let us speak of the mindset required to transform adversity into greatness. First, you must accept that adversity is inevitable. To expect a life without hardship is to live in delusion. Success is not found by avoiding challenges, it is found by mastering them. Second, you must believe that adversity works for your good. Even when you cannot see the benefit, you must trust that it exists. Faith is the lens through which adversity transforms from a curse into a blessing. Third, you must act. Resilience is not passive. It requires action, persistence, and the willingness to continue moving forward when everything in you screams to quit. Remember this, adversity does not come to those who are weak. Life does not waste hardship on the faint of heart. The fact that you face great trials is proof that you are meant for great things. The size of your adversity is in direct proportion to the size of your destiny. Do not despise the weight you carry. It was designed to make you stronger. Let me remind you of a principle that has carried me through many storms. When adversity comes, ask not, why me? Instead, ask, what now? The question, why me? Breeds self-pity and paralysis. The question, what now? Ignites action and clarity. It shifts your focus from the problem to the solution. It transforms adversity from a stumbling block into a stepping stone. Consider the seed buried beneath the soil. To the seed, the darkness must feel like death. It is pressed down, suffocated, hidden away. But in truth, it is in that very darkness that transformation begins. The shell breaks, the roots dig deep, and the sprout rises toward the light. Without the burial, there would be no growth. Without adversity, there would be no greatness. Life is a series of tests, each one designed to prepare you for the next. The test you face today is shaping you for the opportunity of tomorrow. If you quit in the test, you forfeit the reward. But if you endure, if you learn, if you grow, you will emerge ready to grasp the greatness that awaits you. Adversity also humbles us. It reminds us that we are not invincible. It strips us of arrogance and teaches us gratitude. The man who has never known hunger cannot truly appreciate abundance. The woman who has never known loneliness cannot truly appreciate love. The soul that has never been tested cannot truly appreciate peace. Adversity deepens our appreciation of life's blessings by teaching us what it means to go without them. But perhaps the greatest gift of adversity is that it forces us to tap into the hidden reserves of strength we did not know we possessed. Think of the moments when you said, I can't go on, yet somehow you did. Think of the nights you thought would never end, yet here you are. Adversity taught you that you are stronger than you believed, wiser than you imagined, and more resilient than you ever gave yourself credit for. So I say to you, welcome adversity as your teacher. Study its lessons carefully. Allow it to break you open, not break you down. Let it carve away weakness, fear, and doubt until only strength, courage, and faith remain. For in the end, adversity will not define you. It will refine you. It will shape you into the person you were always meant to become. Life is not defined by what happens to us, but by how we choose to respond. Think about that carefully. Two men may face the same storm. The wind blows equally against them. The rain falls upon both their shoulders. The thunder roars with the same force. Yet one emerges from the storm stronger, wiser, and more determined, while the other falls into despair and declares that life is unfair. The event was the same. The difference was the response. Your destiny is not carved by circumstances. It is carved by your reactions. For circumstances are common. Reactions are personal. That is why your response matters more than the event itself. Consider for a moment the greatest achievers the world has ever known. They were not spared from hardship. They did not walk on a path free of obstacles. They endured ridicule, rejection, bankruptcy, poverty, sickness, and loss. Yet they mastered the art of response. They understood that every event, no matter how painful or challenging, contained within it the seed of equivalent or greater benefit if only they would respond with faith, determination, and persistence. The key lies not in avoiding difficulty, but in mastering your reaction to it. When you allow an event to dictate your mood, your confidence, and your outlook, you hand over your power. You become a servant to circumstance. But when you decide, no matter what happens, to govern your response with discipline and vision, you reclaim your power. You rise above the event, and you bend it to serve your growth. That is the foundation of resilience, and resilience is the foundation of greatness. Think of Thomas Edison, who failed over 10,000 times while attempting to perfect the electric light bulb. Imagine the events he encountered: repeated failures, wasted resources, sleepless nights, endless criticism from those who said it could not be done. If he had responded to those events with discouragement, The light you and I enjoy today would never have existed. But Edison did not allow the event to control him. He responded with persistence, saying, "I have not failed. I have simply found 10,000 ways that do not work." The event was failure. The response was resilience. And the response changed the destiny of mankind. Look at Abraham Lincoln, who faced more defeats in elections than victories. He lost his job. He failed in business. He lost his beloved. He was defeated for the legislature, defeated for Congress, defeated for the Senate. But he responded not with surrender, but with persistence, and he became one of the greatest presidents the world has ever known. If the event determined destiny, then Lincoln would have been buried among the unknown failures of history. But because response determines destiny, he rose to the heights of leadership and carved his name in eternity. Now, my friend, I ask you, how do you respond to life when an event strikes against you? The loss of a job, a betrayal, a failure, a dream that falls apart. Do you surrender? Do you complain? Do you allow bitterness to take root in your heart? Or do you rise with courage and declare that this event shall not define you, that your response shall be greater than the storm, that you shall take this blow and turn it into a stepping stone? You see, adversity introduces a man to himself. Events are mirrors. They reflect the substance of your character. Anyone can smile when life is pleasant. Anyone can sing when the sun is shining. Anyone can believe when the path is smooth. But when the storm rages, when the night is long, when the ground shakes beneath you, that is when your true self is revealed. Will you collapse under the weight of circumstance, or will you respond with faith and courage? Life does not ask you whether you wish to face trials. It simply delivers them. It does not ask you whether you are prepared for hardship. It simply hands it to you. The only choice you truly possess is not in what happens, but in how you answer. This is the supreme test of your mastery. Can you respond in a way that converts trial into triumph, that transforms defeat into fuel, that turns pain into purpose? Understand this: events are neutral until your mind interprets them. A setback is only a setback if you label it so. The same event can be a curse or a blessing, depending upon your response. To one man, failure is final. To another, failure is instruction. To one, rejection is humiliation. To another, rejection is redirection. To one, loss is tragedy. To another, loss is transformation. Events carry no meaning until you assign meaning, and the meaning you choose becomes the path you walk. Why is it that some people suffer one blow and remain down for the rest of their lives, while others face repeated blows and rise stronger each time? The difference is not in what happened, but in how they responded. The response is the seed of destiny. Do not make the mistake of believing that those who succeed are those who escape adversity. No. They succeed because they master their response to adversity. They see every trial as a teacher. They see every disappointment as preparation. They see every closed door as a test of their determination to knock again or to build another door entirely. Their greatness is not in the absence of storms, but in their response within the storm. Let me tell you a truth that may surprise you. Your greatest growth will come not from comfort, but from conflict. Comfort teaches you little. Ease softens your will, but conflict awakens the giant within. When life presses against you, when everything seems to fall apart, you are being given a sacred opportunity to master your response, to show yourself who you truly are, to rise above the level of ordinary and step into greatness. You have within you the power to govern your thoughts. You have within you the ability to choose your perspective. You have within you the discipline to respond with courage, even when fear whispers in your ear. That power is your birthright. But if you surrender it to circumstance, then you become a slave to events, tossed about like a ship without a rudder. Take back your rudder. Take back your choice. Decide now that nothing external shall dictate the state of your mind. Decide that every event shall be bent to your service, for your response shall turn even defeat into advantage. When Napoleon Hill wrote that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit, he was pointing to this very truth. The seed lies dormant until your response activates it. Most people experience adversity and allow it to bury them. The strong experience adversity and use their response to dig out the seed, nurture it, and grow it into greatness. Imagine two seeds planted in the same soil. One grows, the other withers. The difference is not the soil, for it was the same. The difference was in how each responded to the environment. Likewise, two men may face the same tragedy. One crumbles, The other rises. The difference was in the response. I tell you, no event has the power to destroy you unless you hand it that power. Pain cannot stop you. Failure cannot stop you. Rejection cannot stop you. Only your response can stop you. But the opposite is also true. Your response can transform pain into strength, failure into wisdom, rejection into redirection. What is required of you, then, is mastery of self. You must train your mind to see beyond the event. You must discipline your emotions so they do not betray you in the heat of adversity. You must hold fast to faith when everything around you urges you to despair. This is not easy. It demands courage. It demands persistence. It demands an unwavering vision of your purpose. But this mastery will set you apart from the masses who live as victims of circumstance. There is a silent war that rages in the mind of every man and woman, the war between reaction and response. Reaction is automatic, born of fear and habit. Response is deliberate, born of choice and discipline. Reaction is the slave of event. Response is the master of event. Which shall you choose? Shall you allow life to push you wherever it wills, or shall you stand tall and command your response with courage? Train yourself now in the small matters, for they prepare you for the great matters. If someone insults you, how do you respond? With anger or with calm dignity? If you suffer a minor setback, how do you respond? With complaint or with renewed effort? These small responses build the habit of resilience. And when greater storms come, as they surely will, you shall be ready. Every day you are writing your destiny, not with the events that happen to you, but with your responses to them. Every day you are carving your character, not with the circumstances of fortune, but with the choices of reaction. The event is the canvas. Your response is the brush. What picture shall you paint? I wish to speak to you today about one of the most vital truths in the pursuit of success and the shaping of destiny. Persistence is resilience in motion. It is the lifeblood of every achievement, the invisible power that carries you forward when the path is steep, when the world says no, and when doubt whispers in the silence of your own mind. Persistence is not simply the act of trying again. It is the living expression of resilience itself, turned into movement, turned into action, turned into progress. Every great accomplishment in history is a monument to persistence. Men and women who refuse to quit, who refuse to bow to discouragement, who refuse to surrender to defeat, carve their names into the scroll of time. Yet we often misunderstand persistence. We think it is only about stubbornly continuing in the face of obstacles. But persistence is something greater, something deeper. Persistence is resilience with direction. It is resilience with purpose. It is resilience applied to the battlefield of life, refusing to retreat until victory is secured. When Thomas Edison was asked about the thousands of failed experiments he endured before inventing the incandescent light bulb, he replied that he had not failed, but rather discovered thousands of ways that would not work. What was that but persistence in motion? It was not resilience alone, for resilience without movement remains silent, inactive, waiting. Edison moved. He applied. He worked. His resilience was not static. It was alive, expressed through persistence, through relentless effort, through the daily practice of refusing to yield. You see, resilience is the inner strength that allows a man to withstand pressure, disappointment, and loss. But persistence is resilience expressed as action. It is resilience walking, resilience climbing, resilience advancing inch by inch, even when the terrain is rough and the weather is cruel. It is the difference between standing firm and moving forward. A tree can be resilient, standing against the storm, refusing to be uprooted. But persistence is the traveler who keeps walking into the wind, step after step, until he reaches the destination he has chosen. Now let us turn our attention inward. How many times in your own life have you encountered a setback, an obstacle, a defeat that made you question whether the dream was worth pursuing? How many times has discouragement crept in, whispering that perhaps you are not capable? Perhaps the dream was too large, perhaps the world was right when it told you to settle for less. In those moments, resilience allows you to endure, but persistence is what allows you to move. Without persistence, resilience is only half alive. Without persistence, resilience becomes survival. But with persistence, resilience becomes creation. Consider the life of Abraham Lincoln. He faced failure in business, defeat in politics, personal tragedy, and countless rejections. At nearly every turn, life presented him with a reason to give up. Yet he persisted. He continued to stand for what he believed, continued to push forward, and in the end became one of the greatest leaders the world has ever known. His resilience allowed him to bear the weight of so much failure, but it was persistence that moved him step by step toward the fulfillment of his purpose. The truth is, this persistence is not glamorous. It is not the sudden spark of inspiration that the world admires. It is not the grand gesture that wins applause. Persistence is quiet. Persistence is daily. Persistence is the unremarkable act of showing up again, of doing the work again, of trying one more time when you are tired of trying. Persistence is resilience translated into the language of effort. It is resilience translated into the rhythm of repetition. And it is in that rhythm that success is born. Most men fail not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack persistence. They stop too soon. They retreat too quickly. They allow the first obstacle to become a wall instead of a stepping stone. They confuse temporary defeat with permanent failure. They believe that difficulty is a sign to quit rather than a test to pass. And so they surrender the very thing they might have achieved had they persisted just a little longer. The universe rewards persistence. There is a law woven into the fabric of life that ensures those who persist will eventually find a way, for persistence opens doors that talent alone cannot. Persistence softens the hardest walls, wears down the strongest resistance, and bends the world to the will of the one who refuses to stop. A drop of water falling again and again upon a stone will carve a path through the rock. That is the power of persistence. It is resilience in motion, slowly, steadily, unrelentingly reshaping reality. Now, some may say, but what if I persist in the wrong path? What if I continue down a road that does not lead to the success I seek? That, my friends, is why persistence must be joined with purpose, with clarity, with definiteness of aim. Blind persistence is stubbornness, but purposeful persistence is genius. When you know what you want, when your purpose is clear, when your vision is vivid, then persistence becomes the force that carries you there. Without persistence, purpose is only a dream. With persistence, purpose becomes destiny. Every person must face what I call the invisible war. This war is not fought with armies or weapons, but within the mind and spirit of every individual. It is the war between resilience and surrender, between persistence and quitting, between faith and doubt. This war is fought every morning when you wake up and choose whether to rise with determination or sink back into the comfort of ease. It is fought every time life throws an obstacle in your path, and you must decide whether to push forward or turn back. And let me assure you, victory in this invisible war belongs not to the strongest nor to the smartest, but to the most persistent. You may stumble, yes. You may fall, yes. You may be delayed, yes. But persistence makes even defeat temporary. Persistence transforms every setback into a setup for a comeback. Persistence takes failure, breaks it apart, and builds success from its very fragments. Do not be deceived into thinking that those who succeed never fail. On the contrary, they fail more than most, but they persist until failure bends its knee before them. The human spirit is capable of remarkable endurance, but endurance alone is not enough. To endure is to survive. To persist is to advance. And advancement is the essence of achievement. Look around you. Every invention, every business, every masterpiece of art, every monument of science is the child of persistence. Behind each stands a man or woman who refused to quit, who refused to surrender, who refused to let defeat have the final word. Now, ask yourself this: where in your life have you stopped moving? Where have you allowed resilience to become mere survival instead of persistence in motion? Perhaps you endured the storm but never resumed the journey. Perhaps you survived the setback but never reignited the pursuit. My friends, resilience alone will keep you standing still, but persistence will set you walking again. And you must walk. You must move. You must persist. The world does not reward the one who almost succeeded. History does not remember the man who nearly persisted. The crown is reserved for the one who endures to the end, who persists until the goal is reached. If you will but persist, I promise you, the door will open. The opportunity will appear. The tide will turn. It may not be at the first knock, or the second, or even the 100th, but persistence is the hand that keeps knocking until the door is opened. Think of the miner who digs in search of gold. He may dig for days, weeks, even years without finding it. Many grow weary and abandon the mine, not knowing that they stopped just 3 feet from the richest vein. But the man who persists, who digs one more day, one more stroke, one more effort, is the man who uncovers the treasure. Such is life. The riches you seek may lie just beyond the place where most men quit. Persistence is the courage to keep digging, to keep striking, to keep moving until the treasure is yours. And let us not forget persistence requires faith, for you cannot persist if you do not believe. No man will continue long in a pursuit he secretly doubts. It is faith that fuels persistence. Faith that tomorrow will reward today's effort. Faith that the vision within your heart is possible. Faith that no matter how many defeats you face, victory remains possible for the one who refuses to give up. Combine faith with persistence, and nothing on this earth can permanently hold you back. As you walk your journey, you will discover that persistence does more than lead you to success. It transforms you. The man who begins the journey is not the man who finishes it. Each step of persistence shapes you, strengthens you, disciplines you, and refines you into the kind of person who is worthy of the success you seek. Success is not only about what you achieve, it is about who you become through persistence. Therefore, embrace persistence not as a burden, but as a privilege. Each challenge is an invitation to persist. Each obstacle is an opportunity to prove your resilience in motion. Each delay is a chance to strengthen your will. And each act of persistence brings you closer to the life you desire, the destiny you deserve, the greatness that is your birthright. There is a truth that stands above the storms of life and echoes across every generation. It is not pain that breaks you. It is the failure to rise again from that pain. You have been told that success is the child of opportunity, talent, or luck. But I tell you this, success is the offspring of resilience. The greatest men and women who have shaped history were not spared from pain. They were forged by it, strengthened by it, and transformed through it. Resilience was the alchemy that turned their suffering into power. Pain, by its very nature, is unavoidable. You cannot walk through life untouched by disappointment, failure, or heartbreak. You will lose battles, you will be misunderstood, you will face moments that bring you to your knees. But in those moments, resilience whispers rise again. Resilience speaks a language that pain cannot silence. It takes the weight of your trials and turns them into stepping stones. It transforms wounds into wisdom, scars into strength, and defeats into determination. Think back on your own life. Consider the times you believed you could not possibly endure one more setback, one more betrayal, one more loss. Yet here you stand today, listen to my voice alive, breathing, still carrying within you the seed of greatness. What kept you alive through those moments? It was resilience, perhaps unrecognized, but present all the same. Resilience is not denial of pain, nor is it the avoidance of suffering. It is the courage to walk through the fire and emerge refined. It is the decision to use the very thing that tried to destroy you as the foundation upon which you build your future. For every trial you endure, every disappointment you carry contains within it the hidden blueprint of growth. Pain is the hammer, but resilience is the hand that shapes the steel. Why is resilience so powerful? Because it changes the way you view pain itself. To the one who lacks resilience, pain is punishment. It is a reason to quit, to retreat, to surrender. But to the resilient soul, pain is preparation. It is a teacher that instructs in the language of endurance. It whispers, "You are stronger than you believe. You are wiser than you know. You are capable of far more than you have dared to imagine." When you embrace resilience, pain no longer becomes the end of your story. It becomes the beginning of your transformation. For it is in the darkest valleys that the seeds of power are planted. It is when your dreams are shattered that you learn to rebuild with stronger hands. It is when you face the ridicule of failure that you develop the courage to stand tall, regardless of who applauds or who mocks. Let me remind you, no empire was built without struggle. No invention was born without failure. No great soul ever ascended without first descending into the depths of trial. The difference between those who rise to greatness and those who fall into despair is resilience. When the blows of life struck, they refused to surrender. They turned the sting of rejection into motivation. They transformed the emptiness of loss into hunger for victory. They channeled their pain into power. Resilience is not only for the battlefield of life's great tragedies, it is for the daily trials that wear on your spirit. It is for the mornings when you wake without motivation, the days when the weight of responsibility feels unbearable, the nights when doubt creeps in to remind you of every failure. Resilience is the inner voice that says, "Keep going. One more step, one more effort." one more breath, and it is that one more repeated day after day that eventually builds an unshakable will. Do not misunderstand me. Resilience does not erase pain, nor does it make your trials easy. It does something far greater. It makes you greater than your trials. Resilience enlarges the human spirit until no obstacle is too high, no burden too heavy, no storm too violent. It gives you the capacity to endure what others cannot, to persist when others give up, to rise when others stay down. Consider the oak tree that stands tall in the forest. Its strength is not measured by the absence of storms, but by the storms it has endured. Each gust of wind, each lashing of rain, each weight of snow upon its branches has not destroyed it, but strengthened it. Its roots dig deeper, its trunk grows firmer, its branches spread wider. So it is with resilience. Every hardship deepens your roots, strengthens your resolve, broadens your vision. You do not grow despite the storm. You grow because of it. The tragedy of many lives is not that they faced pain, but that they allowed pain to paralyze them instead of empower them. They surrendered to despair, and in doing so, they forfeited their destiny. You must never make that mistake. When pain comes, and it will, let resilience rise up in you. Refuse to let your wounds define you. Instead, let them refine you. Refuse to let your setbacks bury you. Instead, let them teach you. Think of the athlete who trains until muscles ache and lungs burn. The pain is not a sign of weakness, it is the sign of progress. The strain of today becomes the strength of tomorrow. Resilience allows him to press forward, transforming exhaustion into endurance. In the same way, every painful experience you encounter in life can become the very training ground for your greatness. If only you refuse to quit. There is a law in the universe: the energy you give to your pain determines whether it becomes poison or power. If you dwell on your suffering, if you rehearse your failures, if you give voice to your despair, your pain becomes poison that weakens your spirit. But if you rise with courage, if you seek the lesson in the loss, if you decide to move forward despite the weight, your pain becomes power that propels you toward greatness. Resilience, then, is the art of turning wounds into weapons, scars into strategies, defeats into drive. It is the alchemy of the human spirit that takes the raw material of suffering and refines it into wisdom, strength, and power. Do you realize what this means? It means that no pain you have ever endured is wasted. No trial you have faced is meaningless. Every setback, every rejection, every heartbreak carries within it the seed of transformation. If you will only water that seed with resilience, it will blossom into power greater than the pain that birthed it. The world often admires success, but forgets the struggle that forged it. The applause of men rarely acknowledges the nights of despair, the tears in solitude, the silent battles fought in the heart. But those who know resilience understand that these hidden battles are the birthplace of greatness. Pain was the hammer, but resilience was the will that shaped the destiny. You see, resilience transforms pain not merely by helping you endure it, but by helping you use it. The resilient man does not simply survive, he thrives because he uses what was meant to destroy him as fuel for victory. He takes rejection and turns it into motivation. He takes heartbreak and turns it into compassion. He takes failure and turns it into knowledge. He takes suffering and turns it into strength. Resilience is not passive endurance. It is active transformation. It is not sitting quietly and waiting for the storm to pass. It is learning to dance in the rain, to march forward through the thunder, to build even while the winds rage. Resilience teaches you to live not in avoidance of pain, but in mastery of it. And here is the greatest truth of all: resilience is a choice. It is not something reserved for the fortunate few. It is not a gift bestowed upon the strong at birth. It is a decision, a discipline, a habit of thought. Every day, you choose whether your pain will make you weaker or stronger. You choose whether your suffering will define your identity or refine your character. You choose whether to bow down to despair or to rise up with resilience. This choice is available to you in every moment. You may have been betrayed, but you can choose resilience. You may have lost your wealth, but you can choose resilience. You may have faced humiliation, but you can choose resilience. And when you make this choice consistently, you create within yourself an indestructible spirit. The man who chooses resilience becomes unstoppable because he has nothing left to fear. What can defeat the one who has already risen from defeat? What can destroy the one who has already been broken and rebuilt stronger? What can silence the one whose scars have become his story, whose pain has become his power. Every time you rise from pain with resilience, you add another layer of strength to your spirit. You become less fragile, less shaken by the winds of circumstance, less swayed by the opinions of others. You grow into a force that cannot be broken because you have learned to bend. You become like tempered steel, tested by fire, cooled by pressure, unyielding in purpose. So when life strikes, as it surely will, remember this truth: resilience transforms pain into power. Do not curse your suffering. Do not despise your trials. Instead, thank them for the opportunity they bring. For every wound is an invitation to grow stronger, every setback a chance to rise higher, every heartbreak a call to love deeper, every failure a lesson in disguise. I ask you to consider this simple yet profound truth: life does not measure you by how many times you fall, but by how many times you rise again. Falling is inevitable. Stumbling is natural, but rising is a choice, and it is in the rising that greatness is born. There is a force invisible to the eye, yet undeniable in its power. It is the momentum created by resilience, the compounding strength that grows each time you refuse to stay down. This is the mindset of bouncing back, and it is the foundation upon which destinies are built. When adversity strikes, most people imagine it as a wall. They say, here is where it ends. Here is where my dream cannot pass. But the resilient mind does not see a wall. It sees a challenge. It asks, how can I climb this wall? How can I break it? How can I find a way around it? This shift of perception is the seed of momentum. Each time you act in defiance of defeat, you gather energy, courage, and confidence. And what begins as a small act of getting back up after one stumble becomes the power to rise after mountains of trials. Consider for a moment the athlete who trains in silence. Every setback, every injury, every loss. These are not final chapters, but sparks that ignite the fire of greater determination. The act of returning, of training once more, builds not only muscle but character. This athlete learns a secret: most never grasp. Each comeback adds speed, each return multiplies strength, each rise compounds courage. This is the law of resilience. It is never wasted. Momentum is a mysterious law. Once it begins to roll in your favor, it carries you forward with less effort than the initial push required. Think of a wheel rolling down a hill. At first, the push is hard, the strain is heavy, the force required feels overwhelming. But once the wheel begins to turn, each rotation becomes easier than the last. Such is the power of resilience. The first bounce back may demand every ounce of your will. You may feel exhausted, broken, and ready to surrender. But the second rise is faster. The third is stronger. And with each bounce, you gather momentum until nothing can hold you down. History is rich with examples of men and women who understood this secret. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before creating the light bulb. Did the world remember his failures? No. They remember the resilience that turned failure into momentum. Abraham Lincoln lost elections, suffered defeats, faced ridicule, yet his resilience pushed him forward until he became the leader of a nation. These men discovered what so many overlook: that resilience is not a reaction, it is a mindset. It is not simply surviving defeat, but transforming defeat into the very energy that propels you forward. The resilient mind whispers a different story than the world around you. While others may tell you, it's over, give up, you cannot rise, resilience says, this is where you begin again, and this time you are stronger. That inner dialogue becomes the script of your life. And make no mistake, the story you tell yourself in the silence of your struggle is the very thing that decides whether you will stay down or rise again. Think of momentum as a river. The first drop of water seems powerless, but as more drops join, the current strengthens, the flow becomes unstoppable, and eventually it carves valleys, moves boulders, and shapes the landscape. Your resilience works in the same way. One act of bouncing back seems small, perhaps invisible to others, but each act adds to the current of your momentum until nothing can stop you. Now let us look deeper into why bouncing back creates such power. When you rise after defeat, you send a message not only to the world, but to your own subconscious mind. You tell yourself, I am stronger than this circumstance. I am greater than this failure. I am unbreakable. And your mind, ever obedient to your dominant thoughts, begins to believe you. Each comeback plants new seeds of belief in the soil of your subconscious, and from those seeds grow confidence, courage, and unstoppable faith. That faith then drives you to attempt again, to risk again, to dream again. Thus the cycle of resilience and momentum is born. Most men allow failure to create inertia, a dead weight that keeps them stuck. They say, I have failed, and therefore I must stop. But the wise man, the resilient man, knows that failure is not the end. It is the beginning of momentum if only he chooses to rise. The very energy of defeat can be transformed into the fuel of progress when viewed through the lens of resilience. You must understand that momentum is not neutral. It flows either upward or downward. If you surrender to defeat, momentum works against you. Each time you give up, you weaken your will. You teach your mind that quitting is acceptable, and soon quitting becomes a habit. But if you rise, if you bounce back, momentum shifts in your favor. Each rise strengthens your will. Each act of courage reinforces your character. And soon, resilience becomes your habit. Then nothing in this world can keep you down for long. Let us not mistake resilience for blind endurance. It is not merely the act of suffering in silence. Resilience is intelligent persistence. It is learning from the fall, adapting from the failure, and coming back wiser than before. A child learning to walk falls 100 times, yet each fall teaches balance, each stumble builds coordination, and soon the child runs. Such is the path of greatness. It is paved not with perfection, but with persistence. Now I ask you to reflect on your own life. How many times have you been knocked down? How many times have you felt the weight of failure pressing you into the ground? And how many times did you rise? Each rise was a spark, a moment of momentum. Perhaps you did not notice it then, but those sparks lit a fire within you, and that fire is the proof that resilience lives in your soul. The challenge is not whether you possess resilience. It is whether you will choose to use it again and again until momentum carries you to your destiny. The mindset of bouncing back requires you to reframe adversity. Do not ask, why me? Instead ask, what is this here to teach me? How can this strengthen me? How can I use this to fuel my rise? Such questions transform the meaning of pain. They strip defeat of its power and turn it into a stepping stone toward growth. I tell you, the man who has never fallen is fragile. His strength is untested, his spirit unproven. But the man who has fallen and risen again is unshakable. He knows the taste of failure, yet he has chosen victory. He has stared into the abyss of despair, yet he has chosen hope. That choice, repeated again and again, becomes the habit of resilience, and that habit builds unstoppable momentum. Momentum is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. An ordinary man may rise once and call it a miracle. An extraordinary man rises every time until resilience becomes his nature. And because it is his nature, he advances farther than others believe possible. He climbs higher than others dare to dream. He achieves what others call impossible, not because he was spared from failure, but because he refused to be defeated by it. You may say, but I am tired. I have risen too many times. I have faced too many defeats. I say to you, the fact that you are here, listening, proves that resilience still burns within you. You have not surrendered, and therefore momentum is still possible. Remember, the darkest night precedes the dawn. The heaviest storm precedes the calm. The deepest valley precedes the peak. If you will rise once more, momentum will carry you farther than you can now imagine. Resilience requires faith, faith in yourself, faith in the process, faith that every rise adds strength to your journey. This faith is not blind. It is built upon evidence, the evidence of every comeback you have already made. Look back at your life. Recall the times you thought you could not go on, and yet you did. Recall the pain you thought would break you, and yet you survived. That is proof enough that you can rise again. And with each rise, the momentum grows stronger. The mindset of bouncing back is not reserved for a chosen few. It is available to anyone who decides that failure will not have the final word. It is not talent, nor luck, nor circumstance that creates greatness. It is the relentless act of rising. And when rising becomes your habit, momentum becomes your ally, and destiny bows to your will.